I'm going live.
Unmuting.
Welcome. I'd like to welcome you all to the regular meeting of Helotes City Council. It is May 27th, 2021. It is 7 p.m. We're going to go ahead and call to order this meeting. And tonight, this evening, we have the pastor of Embassy Church, Ethan Aguilon, who's going to be giving the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's stand. We'll wait on the mic. Thank you. So there's a verse that I wanted to read before we pray, and it's I think it's very applicable to just this new administration. It says, "Now someone may argue, some people have faith, others have good deeds. But I say, how can you show me your faith if you don't have good deeds? I will show you my faith by my good deeds." And so I think that's very applicable of what we're doing here, right? That everything that we do, hopefully, is a reflection of our heart and our faith to serve the city, right? So let's pray. Father, we thank you today, Jesus. We pray for the council. We pray for everything that goes on throughout the week for these meetings to take place. I know there's lots of pre-meetings, and there's a lot of staff involved that do a tremendous work. And so today, Jesus, we pray for the families of the city of Helotes, of everybody that's here represented, God, and we ask you today for the blessings of the decisions that are going to be made today. God, that our faith would be reflected on the decisions that are made. That people that are moving into the city of Helotes would feel welcome and would feel just excitement because they know that this community is full of faith, it's full of love, it's generous with each other. That God, there would be that release into this city, Lord. And so I pray, God, that you would be honored today, honor the leadership that's here. Your word says in Proverbs that the whole city celebrates when the godly succeed, and that through the blessing of the upright, a city is exalted. And so we ask you, Lord, that this city is going to be known for its righteousness. It's going to be known for the heart, for each other, for what they're trying to do. And every decision today, be honored and be glorified. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
This evening, we are honored to be able to present an award. It's by the Robert F. McDermott American Legion Post 309 here in Helotes to two of our City of Helotes Fire and EMS nominees for the American Legion Department of Texas Firefighter and Paramedic of the Year Award for 2020. I'd like to go ahead and thank Council Members Sanders and Salazar for getting this item on the agenda. This award was established by the American Legion to recognize personnel who best exemplify the traits and characteristics of superior firefighter and paramedic. Those who go well above and beyond in the execution of their daily duties and the protection of life and property of others. The nominees are heroes within their community and have earned the distinction to be recognized for their achievements and selflessness. I would like to go ahead and bring up representatives of the American Legion if you want to come up and present your award. that way, if you like, and just bring the microphone your way. Or turn it.
No, we have our.
Oh, you got a hand up? Okay, like that.
My name is Bill Gray. I'm the commander of Robert F. McDermott Post 309. Standing to my immediate right is Lisa Arnett. She's our service officer. And to her immediate right is my first vice commander, who was recently voted into office. And we're getting him a hat, so he can live a good place. Okay, let's do the firefighter. Firefighter certificate of commendation presented to Quentin Rose from the Helotes Fire Department. This commendation is awarded for outstanding public service benefiting our community, state, and nation, presented by Robert F. McDermott Post 309, Department of Texas, on this day, 27th of May, 2021.
And next, we have Emergency Medical Technician Certificate of Commendation presented to Jennifer Harris of the Helotes Fire Department. This commendation is awarded for outstanding public service benefiting our community, state, and nation, presented by the Robert F. McDermott Post 309, Department of Texas, on this 27th day of May, 2021.
Chief, you want to get up there?
Sure.
And Eddie?
Come on, Eddie, you dressed up in your right shirt.
1, 2, 3. We got it. Thank you.
One more.
That'll be a donation of $25.
Congratulations. Yep. Congratulations.
Excellent. Well done, and thank you very much. And my understanding in speaking with the American Legion is that now there's a potential to go on to state and even national recognition. So good luck to you all, and thank you very much for your hard work. It's going to bring us to citizens to be heard. City Council allows up to 3 minutes per individual who has signed up or filed online for citizens to be heard. Oh, yeah, thank you. Do we have anybody that has signed up online?
Online, no, Mr. Mayor, we
Okay.
don't. I do have one person that submitted comments to me via email, and then we have 3 people that signed up that are here.
Okay. You want to
So
read the comments? Go ahead.
Yes. So I will go ahead and read the comments sent in to me by Shauna. I'm going to mispronounce this last name, but Missiong. She lives in Helotes Park Estates, and her comments are: she is against getting rid of the noon siren. She is for allowing food truck regulations, and she is for the short-term rental regulations so long as they are kept to a minimum within subdivisions.
Okay, thank you very much. And for the people that have signed up, first we have Lena Campos. Please come up, state your name and your address, and 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Lena Campos, address 13247 Bandera Road, and I represent Bobby J's Old Fashioned Hamburgers. We are against food trucks being brought into the community. Our biggest concern is keeping the community safe. I guess the biggest concern is how will we ensure that food is prepared on those food trucks and that those food trucks are up to code. Most food trucks operate in the evenings or afternoons and evening hours, and our health departments don't operate after 5 p.m. and do health inspections. So therefore, that's where a lot of the loopholes come in, and you get a lot of cross-contamination and food poisoning and illnesses in the community. The other thing is basically, where will they dispose of their grease and their dirty water bins? That's another issue that we have within the community that needs to be really talked about if this is something that's brought into the community. What hours will they be allowed to serve? Are we talking 5 food trucks? Or are we talking 25 food trucks? We do feel that if food trucks are brought in, that there needs to be some type of cap because it will affect the amount of traffic that's brought in, the amount of auto accidents, the nighttime disturbances. Do we have the police officers to patrol those hours that the food trucks will be bustling in Helotes if they're brought in? What and how will this benefit Helotes as a community? Us at Bobby J's, we pay very steep property taxes and food sales taxes, and always have for 20 years. How will we hold these food trucks accountable and ensure that they are going to report their sales accurately, because most of their sales are cash sales? So how do we hold them accountable and collect the property sales, the proper sales tax from them, food sales tax, but also how do we collect property taxes from them? And how will they contribute to the community? Because they're not going to bring jobs into the community. Most food trucks are ran by people that own them or their family members. So it's not going to benefit our community. It's not going to bring jobs into the community. It's not going to bring the revenue that the actual businesses bring into the community. And also it will cause loss of revenue for existing restaurants. El Chaparral, for, the coffee shop, for Flora's Country Store. I mean, not that they're known for their food, but you know what I mean. And so I just think that these are all things, and if food trucks are allowed to come into Helotes, we ask that it be very thought out and structured so the community benefits and doesn't suffer from bringing these entities in. We also have to look at our road structure and the constant traffic that's in the area in the mornings and in the evenings now due to the road construction. That would, again, heighten traffic. So these are just all things that I feel need to be considered. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you very much. Next we have Tammy Pointon.
Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Tammy Poynton. I own Helotes Country Club in Old Town, and we were established in 1978. And I am speaking on the food trucks as well. And I think they should be allowed in Helotes if the business has the property to substantiate having food trucks on it. I have over 2 acres. I could handle food trucks. I agree not letting them sit there 24/7, but bringing business into Old Town, they do have high standards and regulations being a food truck. I had food trucks before. I don't think they hurt businesses. I think they would bring a lot of new people into Old Town and help it grow. It would give more of a variety. Food trucks have a great variety. We have a lot of chicken, barbecue, and burgers. I think that would open us up to a lot more. I don't think businesses that are really small that can't accommodate people coming and parking and sitting and eating and enjoying the food trucks, but businesses that can, which there are quite a few, should be allowed. Like my business, I do have a food permit. So at Cornwall, does each food vendor get their own permit, or do they go under the Cornwall permit? Because I do have a food permit, and I think it would help my business grow. I think it would help Old Town grow for food permits. So I am for the food permits. I also wanted to bring up that I do vote to get rid of the siren at noon. I just heard of that a minute ago. Another one I had was the C6 disposal being the only disposal place that we have in Helotes. We tried to get a roll-off dumpster at one point, and we didn't know that it only had to be C6, and we got contacted right away. I would have saved a lot of money had I been able to shop around versus C6, and I've tried to get price quotes of what it is for businesses. They said they're not allowed to give it out. And I found out that different businesses, they told me that on the phone, they told that different businesses that I've talked to have different prices. So I really don't think that's fair. It should be open what everybody pays. We should know what everybody pays. And that My big concern, which I brought up before, is the sewer smell in Helotes. It is detrimental to a lot of businesses. Between 6 and 8, if you come hang out in Old Town, in between my mortar building and my beer garden, it resonates there. And I've had plumbers out to see if there's anything that my business can do, but it's not. It is the city sewer. And I'm pleased, I've spoken of it many times. I know the neighborhood got approved to have some work done there. We need it in Old Town really bad. Any evening, it is really bad. But my big concern was I did want to vote for food trucks, and I understand the regulations, but I do think it would be a positive growth in Helotes, and I think it would bring a lot more people in, not in a negative aspect, and they're all over the city. So, I mean, San Antonio, and they just promote business and entertainment of people. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jan. And finally, Howard Benavides.
Good evening, Howard Benavides, 12682 FM 1560. I own a company adjacent to the Public Works building in which currently resides the air raid siren. I do want to say I'm highly opposed to it. This siren not only has been a nuisance, but it's been a health hazard for nearly 5 years that I've been at that location. I can tell you that that Helotes Public Works has sent me pictures of their own decibel meter reading 114 decibels, which is extremely loud. Just to put that in perspective, the CDC recommends anything over 100 as being highly hazardous to your health. And I do want to say that businesses are very close to this siren, but the nearest one being about 40 to 50 feet away. The Ayala family, which is the first business, has young kids. The second family next to there is the Dever family. They have a lot of people coming in and out of their business. Then you've got the Liao family, of my family, and the Janus families. They have grandkids. I mean, this thing is a hazard. I know I've seen some social media posts where people are for it. The people that are for it, I've measured distances. Within 200 feet, you have about 40 people that are exposed to this thing every single day. At 115 decibels, hearing damage occurs in about 28 seconds. This thing runs for 60 seconds. It's a hazard. People in Iron Horse Canyon are about a mile away from the siren to the community park. The middle of Helotes Park Estates is about a mile away. Sound does dissipate over time and distance, so they're not getting the full effect of this. Anything over 100 is highly hazardous, where this thing is actually closer to 125. It's a Federal Electric Corporation manufactured air raid siren. It's just a nuisance and it's a hazard, in my opinion. The city really should get rid of it because I believe it's a liability to the city, and it would be gross negligence to continue to allow this thing to happen any longer.
Thank you very much, Howard. Okay. That wraps up our citizens to be heard. It brings us to the consent agenda, which this week will be items 4 through 7. You should be done with one motion, unless there is a question or an item that councilmember wants to pull. That's right.
I have one question.
Sure.
Have we ever done the fireworks on the Corny Ball Festival grounds before? Or is this the first time that we're doing it?
This is the first time, yes.
For sure, the first time in modern history. I don't know
Yeah.
about many years ago, but yes, sir.
Okay. That's it.
Okay.
I don't want to pull it.
All right. And we have a motion, a second to consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we adjust the consent agenda items number 4 through 7.
Okay. We have a second?
I'll second.
All right. With no additional questions, all in favor of approving consent agenda items 4 through 7 as written, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. All right. This brings us to item number 8, which is the mayor's report. I'm going to be giving periodic updates on things that are going on in the city, and this week we're going to talk about July 2021 marketplace at Old Town Helotes, I'm happy to announce we will be going to 100% capacity. My understanding that is as many as 234 booths,
Yes.
thereabouts, and we will be no mask mandate. Of course, we like to state for the public, if anybody wants to wear a mask, you're more than happy to wear a mask as long as you want to. But as far as mandates, you do not have to mandate. That is completely your discretion. But we're excited to go back to 100% capacity and bring all the foot traffic we possibly can to ensure the success of our businesses downtown in Old Town Helotes. The second thing we want to talk about is something that actually has been around for a while, but we want to make sure that we increase our communication with the community and let them know what's going on. This is C-Click Fix, which is a fantastic development from our Public Works. It's a part of a Constant Connect program. I was looking at the software that our Public Works Department has. It is phenomenal. It tracks everything from the road conditions and scoring our blacktop to complaints and logging complaints of overgrowth and trees that need to be cut down and everything in between. C-Click Fix is actually an app you can download. So anybody's listening online or watching this later or it's here, please pass on to your neighbors. You can download C-Click Fix. You download the app, you'll register your address and you select Helotes as a city. And basically right through that app, anywhere you are, and you come across something, you just pull up the app and say, oh, there's a pothole here, oh, there's a tree branch, there's a power line down, whatever it may be. And you can click the category and it will get an email and start an open ticket so that this issue can be resolved as quickly as possible. If you don't want to download the app, you can actually go to our website and under departments, you go down to Public Works and you can actually input an item right from there. And it has a map, you can zoom in and put the dot exactly where the problem is, and this will create a trouble ticket and our people will be on it and get it fixed. Similarly, we have what everybody refers to as Reverse 911. It's actually part of our Regional Emergency Alert Network. And we want to encourage everybody to start, if you aren't already registered, get yourself registered, start telling your friends, put it out on Facebook. If there's an emergency, of course, we are aware that we can be notified by our siren that goes off, but specific information will be sent out through Reverse 911. You can register for that, go into our city website, again, pick on departments and get down in there to emergency management and emergency notifications, and you will register your address, your phone number, and even I registered today, my cell phone, a secondary cell phone with my wife's number, and texting and email so you can get notified. So when the siren goes off, you will know what's going on because we can reach you and say, hey, there's a tornado, or hey, we've got real bad hail on the way, and appropriate precautions to take. I would like to make an announcement. I don't think he's here with us right now, but we do have a new development services coordinator. We hired him. This is Michael Gallardo. This gentleman came from TADC, and he is detail orientated, and he is taking over the position that was held by Ernest, a beloved employee of the city who did a tremendous job. He has big shoes to fill, but this gentleman has the skills and abilities to be able to service our community, and I think that when you come to file permits and work with the city and plans, I think you will be in good hands. We want to welcome him aboard. Again, speaking about methods of public communication, want to encourage everybody. We're going to be doing some changes to our website and making things hopefully over the course of time more user-friendly and filled with good information. We have our Facebook, our Helotes Facebook page. We will be posting in Nextdoor. I will be making very limited, as City Council, we can make very limited comments on Facebook. So we might see an agenda item just as a, hey, this is what's going on. Some of you may see my post. We'll not be communicating or arguing or discussing it because that's basically conducting city business or giving you our opinions. And that's what we have to do here in open meetings. And so we'll be following those rules very carefully, but we want you to know what's going on and be well informed. And to that end, there are two things I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be creating two ad hoc committees. I just want people to be aware of them. These will be advisory committees to me. I'm going to have one of HOA representatives. My hope here is to have each HOA in our community have a representative that will be appointed or selected and be included to be able to meet on a somewhat regular basis so that we can get input from the homeowners associations on what they need to see or what they want to see, issues that they have, whether it be crime related, whether it be street repair related, whether it be whatever it may be. We want to hear from the homeowners and we want to give them a way to be able to have representation and get their voice heard in a meaningful way. Similarly, I'm going to do a similar committee with local business owners to say, just really give their input on what they would like to see, what they would like to see the EDC do, what help they need to be able to succeed, what ordinances need to be adjusted, or what things make sense, what doesn't make sense, and we want to get input from the point and perspective of business owners. So we want to get a lot of community involvement, and these are two very specific ways in which we can encourage widespread involvement. That brings us to item number 9, which will be the discussion of and action of a resolution on the City Council improving bank depository services. Do we have a motion and a second?
I move that we discuss and take action on agenda item 9.
I second.
Okay, great. Comments?
That's a pretty straightforward agenda item. So we've actually worked with Frost Bank for the last 5 years. The city employees who have been involved with Frost Bank during that time period have very good things to say about Frost, a lot of value added. So I don't see any reason for us to switch or change. Also, I would say nobody else actually responded to the request for a proposal. Since we have such a good partnership with them, and I don't see a reason for us to go out and ask for another proposal. So I support it.
Okay. Thank you. Linda?
I like that it's a local bank and that we're not going with some national bank, that Frost is, home here. And of course, their headquarters is very close. So if we do have any problems, we can go straight to the top if we need to.
Excellent. Anybody else? Comments? Questions? Issues? Okay. With no further questions, all in favor of approving item number 9 as written, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 10, looking for a motion, a second for item 10, which is the discussion of and action on a resolution of the City Council amending the City of Helotes Emergency Management Plan, Annex A.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item 10 as written.
Okay. Motion by Massey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Merchant.
Oh, yes. I agree with the executive summary. I think monthly testing, which is a more common practice, is a better way to do this. The problem is, and I understand why people like this siren who don't live in this vicinity right around here. I've had a lot of people tell me, I like it because it tells me it's noon, and like I'm outside and it's noon. But the thing is, it's not a watch, it's not a clock. It's supposed to be an emergency alarm. And so having it come every day desensitizes, I think, people to what it's actually there for. Again, it's not a clock. And I do take to heart what Mr. Benavides said. Those of us who don't live or don't work in this particular facility don't have to listen to it like they do. And I have spoken to some of the firemen, and they have the same problem. They just said they have to put their fingers in their ears and stop for a minute the whole time this is going off. So anyway, I do agree with, I would like to see this changed to once a month.
I concur with everything Ms. Massey said, and I'll even go a step further. The best part, I think, about this proposal here is that we put an actual expert in charge of the emergency coordinator. We got a fire chief who's really qualified to do this job. So instead of mayor pro temp, I think that is fantastic that we put fire chief in that position. So that's my take on it. It's a good move.
Yeah, we part of my job is determining who gets called for what, and we had several conversations with Chief Moreland. I am thoroughly impressed with his skills and abilities and the projects he's taken to task. We're blessed to have him as our fire chief, and so this will be just one more thing we'll put on his plate, determining when to pull the trigger. Other comments?
So I obviously agree with the other two council members. You know, coming off the campaign trail in the last few weeks, I would add that 90% of residents and business owners, especially on the strip there where Benavides run their shop, they're opposed to it. And so with that feedback, obviously, I support the agenda item that is written.
Okay, this is something that I had brought up before with some staff about the siren. I just have the question, well, what is it for? We've had this conversation. What exactly is it for? I don't understand. And it's supposed to be like an outdoor warning system, but in Brycewood, it cannot be heard at all, and Brycewood is part of Helotes. So for Brycewood, it serves no purpose. So I'm trying to understand in Helotes, what purpose does it serve, since there might be one or two other ways to communicate that there's an emergency. So that is my question, is I would really like a clear understanding of what is the purpose of it, and if there is a valid purpose for it, I'm okay with the once a month testing. Other than that, I don't agree we should have it at all.
Okay, so the purpose is in fact to be a warning system, as it is put in our emergency plan. And so when we get notified by, and often this comes through dispatch or through fire department, hey, we have significant hail coming, we have flooding coming, flash flooding, hey, we have a tornado on the way, we have whatever it may be, God help us, it's some sort of weird fire, or like Los Angeles in the movie, some sort of volcano. There's a siren that goes off immediately, okay, and that should let you know, hey, something's up. Let me turn on the TV. We used to have the cable channel, that's no longer, and that was one of the updates in here, because we don't have that cable access, public access channel available at this point. So really just simply to say, hey, something's going on, take a look around. Maybe you're out there playing ball and wow, the sky's got black, something's happening. And now in Brycewood, that is a good point. You can't hear it there, which is why we want to encourage everybody to have the reverse 911, so that way also when their phones start going off, they can take a look at it. The siren, it does at least notify the people that are in earshot. I guess we could take a look at putting another siren over there in Brycewood, but I'm not sure if people would really want that. So, but the point is that's what it's for, and if you can't hear it, you better have your phone logged into reverse 911 so we can reach you. But that is the purpose of it. And point of clarification, it will go off under this, if this is approved, it will be tested once a month on the second Saturday of the month. The reason why not the first day of the month on the first or something like that is because of the programming restrictions of the actual siren itself. It's set up differently. So bottom line, the second Saturday of each month at noon. So on that day you'll know it's noon. And if the skies are clear, you don't have to run, duck, or hide.
Okay, well, I have one more question. When was the last time it was used for the actual purpose that it's meant to? When did it ring when it wasn't new?
Well, that's also a point of contention, because there were several times when I think a lot of citizens felt it should have gone off.
Like a
and it
snowstorm?
didn't. When a tornado actually did touch down, do we know when the last time it actually was activated?
It hasn't been since.
It's been more than 3.5
Yeah,
years.
it's been more than 3.5 years.
So part of that may be process in the fact of who was supposed to pull the trigger on that. At this point, we have the fire chief who is officed right there, right next to the building. And we will, I'm also on that list, so just in case he's not available, can make the call. hopefully our process as the update here will allow for that to actually go off when we have an emergency.
Well, everything else looked good to me, though my only point would be, let's get rid of the siren altogether. It doesn't serve the purpose that it was originally intended for, and there are definitely better communication methods in the event of an emergency, like the app or other methods.
Thank you. Brett?
The only thing I want to add, I just want to piggyback off what Council Member McCrossin just stated. When I was running for this position last fall, going through the neighborhoods and talking to the residents, I got kind of the same feedback that he did. That when people didn't understand what it was and why, and most of them were annoyed by it. Yeah, I think there's a real reason to actually go ahead and minimize the amount of time that it's actually used. So.
If there are no other...
I just wanted to just kind of say something about what Councilmember Linda Salazar said. Not everyone has a cell phone. We have a lot of elderly people in this area, and I do know that Brycewood is far, so is Beverly Hills, by the way, and I'm sure they probably can't hear it either. But I think there, the Helotes proper, this area here, there are quite a few subdivisions that can hear it. And a lot of these are older subdivisions where a lot of elderly people who don't have cell phones or don't have them set up later. So I think that it is necessary to have the siren and to be tested once a month and then to go off if it's ever needed. So I just wanted to just mention that.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, all in favor of approving item number 11 as written, say aye.
Aye.
Excuse me.
Item 10.
Yeah.
Item number 10 as written. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay?
Motion carries. Thank you. This brings us to item number 11 at this point. Discussion and direction of an ordinance on the City Council amending Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 46, Health and Sanitation, Article 2, Food Establishments, for the purpose of establishing requirements and guidelines on the operation of mobile food establishments within the corporate limits of the City of Helotes. Do we have a motion and a second on item number 11?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item number 11 is written.
Motion by Massey, a second.
I'll second it.
Salazar.
I think they're good reasons to do this and good reasons to not do this. I think that if we do this, it needs to be very restrictive because I have this envision of having food trucks all over the place in front of all the parking places, in front of all the different businesses, and then Helotes does not become Helotes anymore. Someone said, well, San Antonio has a lot of these. Yeah, San Antonio, Helotes and Helotes were two different cities. People moved to Helotes for a reason. And I just don't like the idea of, again, we have a food park situation like in Old Town. And the way we've done it before, we have in our ordinance, our current ordinance, these mobile, these food trucks are allowed during special events. So what we're trying to open up is for another, not just for special events, but for other reasons. So we're going to have to be very cognizant of what exactly that means. Is it going to be a 24/7? Are they going to be able to park their mobile there all the time? Are we going to have to give them restrictions? I'm thinking that that's kind of what we need. If we decide to do this, it's going to have to be curtailed a bit. And I just don't like the idea of having food trucks all over Helotes and all over. It's just not, to me, conducive to good business. So I would like to hear what the other council, my colleagues have to say, because I'm just kind of a little dubious about this right now.
All right, well, I loved what Lena brought up, some great points that we need to consider the businesses that are already in Helotes. Perhaps we could do something where we put a restriction where it can't be a food truck that sells hamburgers and, sets up next to Bobby J's. That wouldn't be fair at all. So maybe something where it would be nice to have the food trucks, but they should bring something special, something different, not what we already have. If you want a great burger, you go to Bobby J's, and Lena will hook you up there. And, we have other restaurants that are local places and that we should support them. So I would be in favor of the food truck coming, but it needs to be something unique, something special that brings more foot traffic to the current businesses, but not conflict.
So just in a matter of clarification, I think we're going to run into some legal issues when and I see Frank chomping at the bit here. We're going to run into legal issues if we say, sorry, you sell burgers, you can't sell, that's discrimination. All right? And
Well,
you can't.
it's not really discrimination because selling
Well,
hamburgers is not a protected class. But your ordinances have to be content neutral. So it has to be more location specific, or it has to be based on regulations that apply to all. If you allow a food truck, that food truck is going to be allowed to sell whatever they would like to sell. So it's going to be very important to have locations where they're allowed, locations where they're not allowed. A lot of cities require certain size lots in order for food trucks to occur. You always have to have the property owner's approval. The property owner is paying taxes, but he's also got to make sure that the sales tax that those food trucks are the products that they're selling, anything that you can have sales tax for, they're also those entities are collecting the sales tax as well. So it really, you have a canvas to draw the regulations you wish to draw when it comes to food trucks. You just have to be very careful that you can't really regulate what they sell, as long as it's meets health standards and the permit requirements and everything else that you set, they're going to be allowed to sell. So that's why it's very important to really more regulate location than what they sell.
Okay.
So I'm certain that part of this discussion, it's important to note that this is just a discussion. We're not taking action on this item. We're not instituting anything at this point. This is just an opportunity to be able to get everybody's thoughts on, down so we can start discussing this and putting something together. But I would have to imagine that this would include that then you have a proper health certificate, that they have proper food inspection. People who do food trucks, or at least reputable ones, certainly keep up to date on all their certificates, and they also have seen in several other cities that we've looked at, you have to have proper disposal within X number of feet. You have to have proper restrooms for the people that work there. So there's quite a few things that are already in that other cities have dealt with this, and I think what we're looking here is what are our thoughts. I think currently the only place in Helotes that really allows, maybe Mary can shed some light, I think is in actually Old Town.
So what we allow, we actually, our ordinances actually don't allow any food trucks unless you have a special event permit. Or when TABC started allowing entities that had a TABC license, we allowed it in Old Town because Old Town has a special use district that allows food trucks in their area. So that's why we allowed it in Old Town, because of that. Nowhere else in the city has that special use, so that's why we've allowed it there. If that property has a TABC license or a food permit license, and they did that because a lot of the bars, or a lot of the I guess they're considered bars, were had to be closed down, but they had a food license, but they didn't have a full kitchen, so they allowed them to bring food trucks in to use them as a kitchen. So we followed and piggybacked off of that to allow that, and we did it just like other cities where you have to have a property approval and so forth, and it's on that private property to do so, and then they would of course have to have a temporary food license, and they get health inspected and everything else.
So it's not really easy just to show up and have a food truck. There's quite a few hoops that have to be jumped through, one way or the other. And there's certainly a cost associated with it, but I think that we need to put a proper context on location. Of course, we already have special, everybody loves going to market days, and you can pick up some popcorn, same, there's no difference between a popcorn vendor and a food truck. It's a mobile, what's the technical term here? Mobile food establishment. So when we think about these things that we see at Cornwall, they're, well, same thing as a food truck, just whether they're on wheels or not. Comments?
So earlier this week, I spoke with Glenn at the EDC, and he had actually, because this a similar item came up at EDC agenda, or EDC meeting a few months ago, I believe, and one of the venues down in Old Town did make a comment that she was not in favor of having food trucks there because it would compete with her kitchen. And then Glenn went back and they discussed it, and brought somebody in the audience who brought up diversification. So that's a good point. And from what Glenn's telling me is that there's a majority of the establishments which don't serve food or have limited kitchen items that would be in favor for having those. Which brings us to what Councilmember Massey brought up, where if we do approve this, where we're going to put them, where we're going to allow. And so I can see things where, like, the country club, that seemed appropriate. When Ken held his market days event, he had, I think, 1 or 2 food trucks back there. That seemed to work out pretty fine. I wanted to get down here on Bandera Road and talk to the strip centers, but I thought about that after talking to Glenn, and most of them, there's restaurants in there, so it really didn't seem appropriate for time to go chat with them. But I think, I know Brycewood, you guys have a food truck, Ironhorse Canyon, and that's something that, Cedar Springs might want to do if we had a bigger parking lot. But, so I think there's some need, as people have discussed. But I also think that our job here is to balance that need with obviously we don't want directly competing with a restaurant unless they want, and with, like Frank said, the property owner approval would mitigate some of those issues if they didn't want to diversify. But I absolutely agree with what's already been said, that I don't think it's appropriate that every parking lot in Helotes be allowed. So I don't know how we could mitigate that within an ordinance, because we have some examples here, and like Frank said, we have a canvas, but I mean, it's a pretty big canvas when you draft the ordinance from scratch. And so, with that said, getting into the details of the staff direction, I was looking at the other permit fees, and I was looking at the examples that you sent. And I personally think $400 for a permit fee would be reasonable, thinking about the paperwork that the staff is going to encumber and then the enforcement. But what I can't wrap my head around is, because we do have these special use permits and they already come in and they set up shop. Are we trying to address something that covers like a whole year, so they don't have to worry about getting a food permit for,
Yeah, that's what we're looking at. Also, you mentioned that some subdivisions are doing food trucks, and so we are not aware of those things, and so
I just heard rumors.
so we're not aware of those things, but that's what we need to regulate, because I don't think that the city realizes that. I don't know if these HOAs, we're talking about not aware of some of these things, and we don't have those regulations in the books and the code, and it would help staff if we did. So a lot of this would help staff so that we could go back and say, yes, this is what can be done, and here's the regulations, and staff needs that direction.
So, kind of sum that up, is that, and this is up to you guys, say, hey, let's regulate, say in homeowner associations, you have private property, you can have it there. If there's a particular lot out 1560 or vacant lots in Old Town, then you could have kind of like a food court in the mall. Say, okay, they'll all be here in this area. It makes it a destination point almost. Say, hey, let's go to the food trucks. Say, we don't want to, we have to be careful of competition. Undue burdensome competition or unfair competition, as it were. There's a lot of work and effort that goes into establishing a brick and mortar, and you don't want to have somebody pull up and, for $10 they're in business. That's not fair. So, but at the same time, it's not unfair for another restaurant to open up a couple blocks down the street, which this essentially would be. So there's some thought process we need to put in there for variety, et cetera. But this is why we're having this discussion. It's like, what's the best way to do it? So I encourage you as we continue our comments that as you're out there, in the field talking with people, get more input, because this is something that when we do, we want to do it right the first time, so we don't create a bigger problem than what we're solving.
So I support putting an ordinance in place, because kind of what we have right now is that special event permit, which is $62.70, and the special event health permit, which is $32.20. So that's like almost $95, right, to get permission to do that. So I think part of the problem, if there has been things happening in Helotes, is because there's not an ordinance that clearly defines what's the process. My second point would be, I'm a big supporter of our local businesses. When and if we bring these food trucks in here, we got to even the playing field for our businesses. I've read statistics that the profit margin for a brick and mortar restaurant is 4 to 5% after they've paid all their taxes and property and all the other things. Whereas a food truck can earn 40% profit in a 4-hour stint. Again, those are just averages, and I can't cite all my sources, but it's informative, right? So there's not necessarily an even playing field. So our ordinance has to somehow take that into account, I think. But at the same time, I don't want to encourage overprotection. I think we all believe in this thing called capitalism. As long as we have an even playing field, right? Competition, drives innovation. It drives people to produce a better product to who? The customer, right? Citizens, residents in Helotes. So definitely believe there should be an ordinance. The example that the staff provided us, I really liked. It really started making me think about an annual permit versus a case-by-case permit. They addressed Ms. Campos and somebody else's ordinance that we're looking at. It talked about all the different health things that you brought up in your 3 minutes. What do you do with the oil? What do you do with the dirty water? What do you do about the bathrooms? Right? If there's no bathrooms in your ordinance that says they have to follow this, are they going behind the bushes? Right? So I think there should be an ordinance. I just think we really need to be smart in how we craft it, so it's not way over the top, overprotective, but it creates a fair and balanced environment for food trucks to come to Helotes without harming our restaurants, and that is probably a really tight balancing act, but I think we can do it.
All right. Any other comments?
The only other comment is that I would be for this being a pilot program.
Yeah.
In terms of whatever draft based off the guidance that we give you, that once in perhaps obviously one more meeting, maybe just discussion to give us some time to get some more public comment before we take action on it. But that way, it shows the citizens that we're taking their comments to heart, and that there is an opportunity to revise this within like a year, based on.
Yeah, and every ordinance is definitely, every ordinance is, to me, if it's a working ordinance, it's always, you can always drop, you can always change if it doesn't work. What staff needs direction on is, what do you want Helotes to look like when it comes to these food trucks? Where do you want it? What do you want it to look like? Where, are you looking at the food trucks on private property? Are you looking at we talked about 1560, where you do have a food park type thing, when you see what you see at Shadefield or Braun, that type of thing. So as staff, I'd like y'all to consider those things so at the next, to give us that direction and answer, because that would help us draft this ordinance. there's some things that we have, I mean, we need to cover regardless, you know, we talk about hours, we talk about, you know, gray water discharge, parking access, all that stuff, but it's also the look. You know what I mean, where do you want these food trucks, how do you want to, where do you want them placed and so forth. That would help staff in being able to draft this ordinance, because that will help determine, you know, how to, what property doesn't have some, you know, some places where there has to be a brick and mortar next to it. Some places there doesn't, you know what I mean? So those are the things that we need answers for to help draft this.
Any other comments, any discussion?
I do. So I looked at all these, the costs, right? And I think Greg, you bring up this on the point here, but there's got to be a fine balance in this. It can be really overwhelming. Bastrop charges $400 a year for a food truck permit, plus the $260 state permit. I mean, that's $600 right there for the food truck to cough up before they can even start. The other thing that worries about me, that worries me in the city here, is we don't have a health department. We have health inspectors who are certified, and they've only done they've only done 5 inspections this year since January. At least that's all that's loaded up on the website.
They actually do different, so what they do is they actually do inspections every single month. They just do different ones.
Right. There's only 5 on the website.
Okay, so I need to find out from them.
There's probably, I'm sure they do more. Years past, there are a few more, but it's like, if they're not inspecting regularly, could be a problem. And then, like Ms. Campbell says, after hours, are they gonna be out there inspecting these food trucks, which is when they typically happen. So I'm a health guy, like that's what I do for a living. It's really important that we don't spread these kind of illnesses around the neighborhoods. And it's really easy to do with a food truck. It really is. So they need to be stringent on rules.
Well,
we need to be stringent on rules. And there's some good examples.
Right, and that's why you have to look at the cost, because we don't have a health inspector. So there's gonna be a cost to that, to have them do this extra, because what they charge us now is for once in a while for these special events, and then they do so many per month of the actual brick and mortar. They do so many per month of brick and mortar.
We might have to come up with a health department as well as, an ordinance for this, because this isn't a city of 2,000 anymore. I mean, we're 12,000 and growing, so we might have to come up with a health department. And there's a lot involved in that.
There's a lot involved.
I'm sorry.
And is it worth it if they're not paying taxes to the community?
Right, and then there's that, how do we collect that? And that has to be, we're looking at, so we have a way to do that. We actually do have a way to check all these things, but there's that, that's what I have. Thank you.
Indeed, taxes is an item I wanted to talk about here. Sales tax, it's tough on a cash business, a mobile business to ensure that sales tax is being paid and collected, but there is, if they're collecting, if they're not, it's something we need to address and make sure that they are paying appropriate. Again, this is part of making sure it's a level playing field, that they're paying their fair share. This will be a work in progress. It's not something we're coming back with in 2 weeks, I can't imagine. So, any other comments? Okay. This brings us to item number 12. We're looking for a motion and a second for, well, actually, this is, we are, again, this item number 12 is going to be the discussion of and direction for an ordinance of the City Council of Helotes to amend Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 98 zoning by creating Article 14, short-term rentals, to establish regulations on the use of privately owned dwellings and short-term rentals, and to ensure the collection and payment of all hotel occupancy tax to the City of Helotes. So this discussion item, again, we're not taking action right now, we're getting input, and so what we're looking for is how do we handle Airbnb? How do we handle, we have some over 200 at this point?
Actually, we have, so I called them because I wanted to know how, we get a report and it listed 114 units. So I wanted to see what units meant. So So we actually have only 28 properties that are listed that we get hot taxes for. The 114 units, they count that as the bedroom units. You know what I mean? How many people can stay in. So maybe a house can have 10 bedrooms or 10 units and so forth. So that's how we get 114 units. So I want to provide that clarification for you.
So as we put this item together and some points that we want to kind of have you guys give your input and direction on, right now, again, we need to find a way to be able to regulate. I have received a number of complaints that surround probably one or two particular properties, but it's something we need to address citywide. If somebody's renting out their property for a night and they have 30, 40, 50 people show up and they're partying until 5 o'clock in the morning, just wreaking havoc on everybody around them, that's a problem. And so we need to take a look when we discuss how we want to craft any revisions to our ordinance. Do we want to include noise ordinance? We don't have a noise ordinance for the city. Maybe we create a noise ordinance. Maybe we create noises related to short-term rentals as a portion of it. But part of what we're looking at here is if somebody wants to rent out their house, okay, that's fine. I get the concept. I don't know if I personally do it, but that has nothing to do with whether somebody else will. But if it affects your neighbor or affects the city, that becomes a problem that we need to deal with, and we need to be ahead of the curve on this. Right now it feels like we're a little bit behind the curve. So looking for your input on concerns, questions, and issues you've had brought up to you, input on how you feel we need to craft this to be able to control this new phenomenon. Cynthia, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I've had several complaints over that past year about this, and one of the biggest issues we have is a couple, just maybe one or two people renting a unit or a house or whatever, and then, like you said, bringing in 20 and 30 people for a party. It was just, and then by the time this gets all said and done, sometimes the police are called in and that kind of thing. Usually it's after the fact though. The person's already, they've been waiting and waiting and waiting to even call the police. When they finally do, it's too late. You almost have to see it in action. So that's a big issue. But the other problem is, in the ordinance, I'm not sure we have this, who do you cite for this problem? And it's the owner of the property, obviously. It's not, the people who are renting it, maybe, there's a two-layer thing perhaps, but, so that's an issue. There's apparently a lot of places out here that, in conjunction with maybe Forest Country Store, they have a big van coming. They'll rent one of the houses down on Antonio Drive, and a lot of people will be there at that place, and they'll just party on all night long. So I don't know how you control that without, I don't even know, we have an ordinance?
No, we only have an ordinance for to collect the taxes for. We don't have an ordinance to actually regulate the occupancy level or anything like that. So we don't have a short-term rental ordinance. And that's why I brought this up, because some of the complaints that we've been getting that, so to discuss if we want to implement something to be able to regulate this or not.
Yes.
You definitely need to regulate.
Yes.
I think, I agree, we need to regulate this, because it's a Lowe's, it's not the same as what, we need to keep it, at least a noise ordinance, right? I mean, we can't have this big loud parties at 5 in the morning, I have to work, sorry. So, we need to free ordinance. I just wonder, I guess Cynthia was telling me how we collect, not Cynthia. Celine was telling me how we collect the lot taxes, and that seemed pretty interesting. So there is a way to do this. We just need to do it.
So Mary and I have been shooting some emails back and forth. I'm glad Councilmember Massey brought up and yourself brought up the noise ordinance, and I'm glad that our attorney's here, because I personally think that just working this out, that if I am an owner of a property and I'm making money on my Airbnb and then the city comes in and cites me for, a complaint, but that's kind of broad. And so I think we would have legal exposure without some sort of noise ordinance in place. And is that accurate, or?
Well, it's funny because the city does have a noise ordinance, but it only is applicable to park buildings and park facilities. It is not applicable which is very unique. And you don't have a noise ordinance. Most cities, especially in the rural communities, do have noise ordinances to prohibit that. This debate on short-term disability was actually occurring in one of my other cities Tuesday night. And they allow short-term rentals, but they were having problems with the same things you were raising, is the fact that some of the rentals were being used for parties. But they do have noise ordinances, and so the police were able to go and stop those after they were notified of these issues that were occurring. You guys don't have that tool. So if you're wanting to regulate short-term rentals, there's a lot of municipalities who do regulate. I will tell you, legally, courts have ruled against cities, ruled against HOAs who have tried to prohibit short-term rentals. So the best approach is coming up with regulations. For example, if it's a group for four, then if it's then 4 people are allowed in that, and if you have the noise regulations, you have some other type of regulations that you're able to control the events at those locations. In San Antonio, there was a huge story about a year and a half before COVID, where this person had a house in the King William area that he was using for events. And the neighbors were just going crazy because they were large events in the King William area, and the people were not enjoying because it was disturbing the peace and so forth. So it just turned out that they started enforcing the ordinances and showing up every half hour to ticket the person if they didn't stop the party. And when they didn't stop the party, the next half hour they ticketed the person again. And they just, to the point where the individual quit using the facility in King William for events. So again, you just have to have the tools to be able to regulate. And from what you've noticed, you do not have a noise ordinance or any other type of ordinance where you're able to regulate short-term disabilities or short-term rentals that are being used for events. Because you really don't have issues when they're really used for the purpose of a short-term rental. They come in, they leave. It's like a hotel room. It's when they're used for activities that cause the harm.
Yeah, it sounds to me after hearing everybody else talk is that we just flat across the board need a noise ordinance that's applicable beyond the parks. I didn't know that's where it stopped. So that sounds like the straightest course of action.
And construction. You also have a noise ordinance for construction.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask Frank a question or just bring a topic up? Frank, so even though our local ordinances doesn't have a chapter that addresses noise or noise pollution, if somebody calls an officer, the officer could cite that person under the state penal code for disorderly conduct.
Correct.
So, I mean, we do have a tool, or the police officer has a tool to cite a person.
For criminal disorderly conduct.
Correct. But I understand wanting to have something written in our ordinances. I just wanted to make that clear. We're not defenseless.
And while in most disorderly conducts is based on subjective criteria where the officer makes that determination alone, is it or is it not disorderly conduct? Usually with your noise ordinance, it's much more objective and not subjective.
And that's, that's quite a step. If our only tool is going criminal charges, that's a pretty hefty bond to lob onto somebody. But if we come in there and say you're in violation of our noise ordinance and it's here local, not a state criminal charge, I think we're going to have a lot easier time processing and enforcing, and be a little bit easier for police to be able to deal with the problem without having to dig deep into the arsenal of criminal charges. Greg,
You guys did everything. I have the noise thing. I do have a question though for you, sir. So what I saw, we have 3 examples that we're looking through. And so it seems like if we put the right rules in place, a couple of these disturbances, even though they're different renters, the owner who has the permit, their registration to use as a short-term rental unit, they could lose their permit after so many violations if that's written into our ordinance, correct?
That's
So
correct.
there's some of the teeth to this, I think.
Yes.
So, so we just gotta be smart in how we integrate that into it. That's all I got.
Brings us item number 13, is staff report. The update of our future schedule of City of Helotes movie nights.
Just wanted to give you an update on our movie nights. We had one scheduled for May 21st, but it was canceled due to just the ground conditions of the rain that happened that week and the weather, and plus the Helotes area was not available, so just with all that combination, we canceled it. We have one scheduled for June 18th. We are going to reschedule the Toy Story that was going to play on May 21st. And then we looked at the July and August. Those are our hottest times of the month, and so our participation and our crowd is very, very low during those months. Also, August, we don't have the area band. They don't come out because it is too hot, so they always cancel August. So we are proposing to cancel those two months and actually extend it and do a fall. So we're looking at doing the September 17th, proposing a throwback movie, actually, maybe a PG, a little older crowd for that one, and then an October one, either the 15th or the 22nd, adding that due to the summer months cancellation, the cooler weather, and maybe doing a fun Halloween. So that's what we're looking at doing for the October. We're looking at evaluating all the events. We've noticed in the last few years, the number of people who attend the event seem to have decreased, and we don't know if it's the selection of the movies, the date of the event, or something like that. We're going to survey the attendees also to see and compare the number of residents compared to non-residents. You know, this event has always been trying to, for our residents, you know, we use taxpayer money for this, and we want to see if that's what the crowd is compared. So we're going to do a survey. You know, it's not a formal survey, just kind of asking who's here, who's residents, and so forth. And then we'll reevaluate the overhead costs and sponsorship, and then come back to you all about that and see if this is something we want to continue in the future years, you know, for next year or something else, or if we want to do some other event. Because, you know, a few years ago, movie nights were a huge hit in many cities. It's kind of dissipated, and a lot of cities are not doing it anymore. They're doing more of the drive-in movies, that type of thing, like Six Flags and so forth. So we just want to look at it and see if this is something the community really wants, or if we want to go a different direction.
I think it was interesting on this last movie night, it was the tail end of our COVID area, so we did what we call pre-sales, even though they were free tickets.
Right.
And of the people that had signed up, I think we had 50, and 95% of them were not Helotes residents because they signed up electronically, so we had that kind of information. That's something that's right in line with when I've surveyed staff about how they felt attendance was over the past couple of years. Like I said, when we started this up in 2008, I believe is when we started this, back when I was on council. Oh, we had hundreds of people, and that's great. Now we're getting down to the point where it's costing us $12, $13 a person. We could find a brand new ticket to a Santikos for less money than over here. So we have to take a look at the cost benefit and the fact that really if only 5% of our citizens are showing up, or the people that are showing up are Helotes citizens, it's something to take a look. It may be a passé trend. So just kind of what's going on, what we'll be looking at. We're obviously going to finish out this year's schedule, and we'll bring back kind of the results of each of the active events we have, and we'll just take a look. This is something we want to actually continue. That brings us to, we're going to adjourn into closed session. Closed session is going to be in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.074 personnel matters. In addition to the matters listed below, we may discuss a schedule for open session items as appropriate and authorized by law. We'll be looking at section 551.074 personal matters to deliberate the selection of Mayor Pro Tem from the city for the City of Helotes Council for term May 2021 to May 2022, as well as section 551.074 personnel matters to deliberate the appointment of public officers on the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. We are going to poll the third item on executive session. No action will be taken while we are gone. We shall return briefly.
If you can call the
The time is 8:14.
Good to see you. Too. I gotta bring a coin back. I do intend to do that.
Join back there.
Yeah.
Join back.
Oh, good, got it. I just did my read.
Computer's gonna be here.
Get my water.
And you. Virtual? How they're gonna start doing it in person. Some of it tomorrow is supposed to be in person. And I don't know if it's virtual stuff, it's just, you know how they call the group? I guess that's cool, because they're gonna have in-person coordinators.
I'm waiting for that call to come. So I'll probably, I'm thinking. Thank you, guys. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Did you have to open back up at CJ's? We're closed Mondays and Tuesdays. Okay. But that's strictly due to staffing.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
We're waiting for that to kick off.
Is it right now?
And then hopefully we'll just get an inflection of applications like you would not believe. You know, I will say this. The thing that is honestly kept us open and afloat is the loyalty.
Oh, yeah, and forever, yes. We go
Matt, the kid that was here with me tonight, been there 11 years.
Oh, wow.
My flag ladies and my grill cooks and the girls in the
Wow.
so literally you see the kid, my high school kids, quiz and parents at 1 and stuff. My 10 regular staff members that I've had for over 10 years are all still there.
Wow.
And they don't even want to be closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. They're dying to reopen 7. We're dying to reopen 7 days a week. It's just they're going to have, I can't do, they need 2 days off.
Yeah.
And so that way it just gives everybody the same 2 days off and lets us kind of
And
figure
it's
out
probably
the
your
other 5 days.
slower
It
days,
is. It
yeah.
is. Monday and Tuesday
Yeah.
are our slower days. So unfortunately, I'm like, oh, Bob and Beth are coming over. 2 days a week, how much money do we have for those 2 days?
I can hear him.
Yes, so especially Beth. So yeah, it's a process. I'm so lucky that we're still open and that we survive through the whole pandemic situation
Yeah.
because so many restaurants closed and it was just so heartbreaking to watch. As somebody that's been in the restaurant industry forever, it's just, it was so sad. I mean, literally, I can't tell you how many times I've purchased breakfast tacos at Bandera Road Cafe for my
Yeah.
crew for the last 15 years,
Exactly.
you know? And so it was really sad to watch a lot of that happen. I'm just blessed that we're still kicking strong. I will say, even with the saving grace nights have blessed us all the time. Cool thing.
Yeah.
You know, come on, let me get you a PPE loan, let me get you this. And I said, Glenn, I don't qualify. I don't qualify for any of it because your cells have to decrease.
Yeah.
And mine have inflated.
Wow.
Even being only open 5 days a week, my cells are higher this year than they were. Well, this year and last year, my cells were phenomenal compared to the 2 previous years. Without COVID. So we're really.
But that says a lot about your restaurant.
I will say
and,
it's a little, the food is definitely good,
Yeah.
and I will say that
It's a
customer
customer service. That
it's
makes
the
a
homey
difference.
feel.
It
really
is.
is.
I mean, that's what we've been eating.
And Benita, she's supposed to retire in 3 years. That's her retirement
Oh, wow.
age, right? 3 years.
Yeah.
And she can't live with that. But she comes down her baseball. She's so, like, she lives Bobby J. So she's bored a lot of time.
exactly.
So I teach her, like, when you retire, you're going to come back on part-time. Like, you're going to just get a retirement
You're
check
checking,
and still
still
work.
coming, yeah.
So you have something to do with your days. And she probably will, to be honest with you. So
that's
I'm really
amazing.
lucky
Yeah.
to have that. Because it's not like
No.
they have 10 employees for over 10 years.
I know, that's amazing. Especially, you're not a fast food, but you know what I mean? But you're not the regular sit
typical,
down. So that's
it can be
amazing.
very high stress and high
Yes,
pace.
exactly.
Yeah. And so I'm really lucky that they stayed with me throughout all the years. I think Beth was an intricate part of that. She always was like our, mama. She was like every, she was the matriarch. And so I think we all just felt indebted and that it was loyalty to her.
Yeah.
She made it really easy to stay with her. Now that she's gone, I'm like holding on for dear life. After the pandemic and the snowstorm, and then we had so many pipes bust, and we had to close down for a week during the Bobby J's. We had to shut down for a week. It wasn't necessarily that we couldn't get the pipes fixed. It was because there was a wait for plumbers.
Yes.
They
were booked.
All through the whole thing. It was crazy. So it's been definitely a trying 2020. And then the beginning of 2021.
Yeah, exactly.
For it to be over.
Well, we've been enjoying it. We've lived in the area.
Y'all did that so in sync.
We're in sync.
Yeah, we're in sync.
So, yeah, we've always liked it.
I totally appreciate it. We try to put that. I'm trying to get people. I'm gonna start. Well, I've already started. I haven't put them out yet. But I started buying like cornhole and those big outdoor checkers and all that stuff because everybody just wants to eat outdoors.
They do because
They
they've
really
been cooked
do.
in.
Well, that was like still. Some people are still leery and don't know whether they want to be inside and whatever. So it is what it is. We don't. As long as you're comfortable, wherever you're comfortable, eat in your car, eat in the parking lot, eat on the front porch.
Just
Don't eat in the bathrooms, but eat wherever. There, make yourself at home.
Well, that's good.
And so yeah, I'm trying to
told me that
things to do.
Yeah.
Kind of needing to worry about. Yeah, and I don't want to miss a
You have a wonderful staff.
Thank you. I do. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I gotta get back to closing now.
That's true. They know how to clear a room.
They do.
I couldn't believe how many people were here when I walked in. I figured, I know. But then I.
Need more seats?
Yeah.
Another row?
This shouldn't take long.
Yeah.
When Rich was on council, when he got on in 2007, there were, I may have told you this story so you can stop me, but there were nights when he didn't get home until like 1 o'clock in the morning because they were so busy fighting an executive session that I'd be like, he'd come in and I'd go, tell me you went to a bar or something, that you weren't just an executive session for that long. And he'd be like, no, didn't do anything fun. I'm sorry.
There was a lot of turmoil that year.
There was a lot of turmoil that year. There was a lot.
Every council goes through that.
Oh,
Not nice. He said to bring like sessions.
That year. That 1 year.
Oh, you mean-
I mean, I don't know. We don't have any lights on.
I've heard stories
Back to Colin and Richmond, since
When it's okay to disagree, we don't have to take it personal.
What's like a jury, they're gonna deliberate, sometimes their juries are dead off for days. So I can imagine what they have to discuss. So you have big plans for the weekend?
no. He works Saturday. So, but I got new golf clubs for my birthday. So tomorrow, that's really, I'm not working. So tomorrow I'm gonna try to golf. I'm not a very good golfer. I mean, you know. I haven't golfed a lot since I had children.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of sad about it.
You go out to the park?
Yeah, I mean, I went to the driving course, and then a short course is good for me because it's just better right now for me.
Are they still in the league?
The one that's flickering when I turned it on. I was like, where's my phone? Like, just email me. I'm like, no, we have to use this app.
And they would keep you put everything.
So it's crazy, so they had a coach would hold the head of the club, burn the ball, and using muscle memory. When he was talking about 120 yards, 5 degrees to the right, you have a bunker, you have a water hazard on your left. You know, hit it 150 yards, whatever, iron. It's fire.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's some of the limitation overcoming a lot of things.
That's right. Hey, you were doing your part.
You played in class the longest tournament one night. And he's like, I think it's through my back out.
I think that's up to the kids. It's not too short. It's almost like.
Kids would have to go more over there.
My old clubs were so heavy because they, so the old guys actually using riches just because they were too long for me, but they were at least. So now I have clubs that fit me that aren't heavy, so I'm sure that's what was wrong with my seat. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm on it for 4 years.
You know, that's really a good thing for girls to do too, because there's a lot of stuff, you can get a scholarship.
Yeah, most of the scholarships I don't get used are for girls golf, and I didn't believe it. So that's right. It stopped as soon as it stopped as soon as oh, really? It stopped flickering. It'll probably do it again.
Oh, bowling, combination.
It's the bottom one, right? It's the bottom part.
So you're not graduating.
Texting. She's very excited. And I think today was her last day. She had her last AP test today. Yeah. She said when I was walking home from school, I kind of was thinking, wow, I'm never going to be back there.
Oh.
Reality kitten.
Right? All of a sudden, yeah. But I don't think she says that. I mean, you know, touch her.
Yeah.
She's ready. I'm sure you were ready, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I already graduated since 17. So. Where did she graduate from?
Yeah.
Oh, you're
She
not-
graduated from
This year? Oh, okay.
Dean's a junior.
Well, they're having a party right now at the time.
They have the, well, it was prom.
I thought it was pajamas.
Just not school sponsored.
Okay.
Now they're having another party right now.
Pardon?
And your son?
No masks. No, there's lots of reasons to celebrate.
It's gonna be sophomore?
Yes.
Is he gonna stay with the band?
One more year for sure. He needs to experience one more year. I mean, they got to go out on the field this year, but I mean, they didn't really, they couldn't practice enough to actually march. They like would go out in lines and then come, I mean, they really didn't do much. But at least they got to go out.
Right, yes. A friend of ours, her daughter is now the current president of the band.
Oh, cool.
So,
Yeah, they just did the,
yeah.
they just did the elections for that.
She said president
Because they have, order makers, so they have band officers as well. They have from president down to social directors and
So
stuff.
she's Jennifer.
She's the president. So that's huge.
She played choir. She got dance. She was her. Yeah.
Good for her.
She played soccer with me. It's funny, she had a 15-year-old party, and her mom called me and asked me if we could stand with her. Well, Dave and her were not that close, they really just played soccer and that was it. He's like, what did you sign me up for?
Did they make you learn to dance and stuff? They did.
He's like, Mom, really? Jennifer, he's like, yeah, they're really not.
I think you said your son was doing ag mechanics.
No,
He's not at all.
they did act, but I can't get him interested.
He did.
Cassidy did it.
Oh.
She did mechanics, but she did act for 2 years.
Yeah.
But it's just got to be a lot.
Oh, too much. Their daughter does go.
She did go. Do you keep them at home?
Yes.
See, if we could put her at home, she might have done them. It was so much.
Actually, it was
We did it the year that they had the rainwater.
Oh, no. I think everybody.
Especially if it was, you were on campus, there's no way. I bet a lot of the girls at home had them too. That is.
Hardware now.
But you know what, they can participating, perspective shows. Yeah, Starfish shows. So Sarah really enjoyed doing that.
It's a great program. They already pigs. Pigs, that's, I was like, why don't she make pigs? It's a shorter time frame, a little bit. And pigs always bring in more money. It seems to me. That pig, and I think that was something that she said. The squishy pig goes with a little belly.
Easier.
Yeah, they're pretty gross. But at least like they always like go to the same place in the pen. Like well, let's see the front and the
Really?
back. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so you're pretty good about that. Random.
Is Mr. Chumley gonna be around next year? It was supposed to be, but they said because of COVID, that's why he didn't retire, because he was afraid that it's gotta be hard to let go of, that's his baby. Really? I'm done, I'm tired. See you later. So do y'all see the new presents, or president? Do you guys see, does he come around and? Really?
The magnets will require. Delegating the magnet.
Yeah, you have to apply and everything.
Yeah, if you're in the ag program, you might have come through here.
They're part of the ag.
So
Is
you're
that
not
what there
on
is?
Yeah.
Well, you are now. But I mean, you take your classes.
Just like tap down
But I
the
have the
commerce.
license, so it's I don't know, I have some responsibility.
And they not
That's like homes, Warren,
Yeah, like-
Marshall. We all have.
Everybody I know, all the 4-H kids I knew who wanted to get in, got in though. I mean, I know,
If they were already there.
well, they were like 7th, 8th graders and then,
Oh.
but they all got accepted.
No.
You gotta have to go anyway.
I don't know how hard it is.
I mean, it was already a lottery system. They were coming on it in the beginning.
As long as they don't have pens, I guess. And then, of course, there's a lot of people's computer phones.
They did change it up a bit too. The big one.
The way they were doing things.
Well, they had long pins, and then they chopped it, so you could put more. Not children in the pins are big. Your kid up here.
They redid the Goat Barn too, but I never saw it because it was after our second year, but I heard it was really great.
That looks nice. Everything's painted, it's better lights, better fans. Just the paper, that was it. Just everything else looked like paper.
Everything else completely.
Oh, this
The low, oh, but the upper barn they redid?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's spotless.
That's what their office is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Same with the
I
goats.
see.
Yeah, no, she's located
Now it is.
I'll have to go over and check it out.
that's really
I'd like to see it.
sometimes I see.
Last year wouldn't have been a good year to do that.
No.
Could also.
Yeah.
It was a good year.
No. You could go in, you check your temperature ahead of time.
Yeah, he lives in my.
And so you usually like take advantage of it. They would have been, they only have a student and a parent or one other person.
Remember they had time slots. too.
Probably you should walk first, because they
Like this month, you're keeping from 6 to 7. You're touching 6 to 7, so you're staggering. You don't sit there and talk hours, you don't sit.
No, yeah, they were here that morning. It was, I thought for
F live.
We're the first coming session.
Yes. But we just had
All right, we are back. We on?
Now we're.
We are on. We are back in executive session. It is 8:37 p.m. No action was taken, and therefore it brings us to item number 15. Like a motion and a second for the discussion of and action on the selection of Mayor Pro Tem for the city of Helotes.
Mr. Mayor, we really discussed the action on the selection of Mayor Pro Tem. And actually, I would like to make a nomination for the Mayor Pro
Okay,
Tem.
let me get a second here real quick. Second?
Second that.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Craig Sanders as Mayor Pro Tem for the upcoming year.
Greg Sanders nominated. Okay, do we have any discussion? Second would be, Councilman Matt.
No, second that. I think Craig is well qualified. I know him. We've discussed many things, and I'm very confident that we'll be able to fulfill the role.
Linda?
I appreciate that he's going to undertake this additional duty.
Matt?
Excellent suggestion.
Craig has always impressed me from the day I met him. Quality individual, thoughtful, thinks everything through, and look forward to serving with them in this capacity. So all in favor of accepting Craig Sanders as Mayor Pro Tem and appointing him as Mayor Pro Tem City Helotes for May, term May 2021 to May 2022. And that's written in item number 15. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm honored, thank you.
Brings us to item number 16. Need a motion and a second for the discussion of an action on the appointment of public officers in the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. Place one.
Mr. Mayor, I motion that we discuss and take action on item number 16.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, at this time, we are appointing, due to the resignation for place one on our Economic Development Corporation Board. The process is the mayor makes a nomination and then council confirms. I am nominating Melissa Benavides. Melissa, if you want to come up here to the podium, in case anybody has any questions or issues that they would like to discuss, we'll open it up to Matt Crossman.
Yes, sir. So I did request from staff to see all the applicants, and one thing that I want to say is I looked through those. The mayor obviously nominates, but it's due diligence on my part. We've gotten to know each other since the campaign. Your company printed the signs for my campaign, so thank you for that. But in those discussions, not knowing that you were going to put your name in the hat for one of the, I'd say, one of the most important boards that we have in the city right now. I want to say that our candid conversations that we've had have been enlightening. I think you're very well connected. I think she's a great candidate. She obviously knows what's going on in Helotes, and with your entrepreneurship, I think that'll be a great asset on the board. That's it.
Well, I guess I would just like to understand what are your main goals with this?
Our main goals are to see Helotes stay Helotes, but bring in a variety, bring in more. I kind of do that now with our business. We do signs, banners, vehicle wraps, and so we're always in contact with all kinds of people. We help shops get where they are. The bakery, I helped her get where she is. So it's just, I've been in the background already, kind of doing stuff, and it just seemed natural.
Okay, thank you.
I really don't have a question for you, Melissa, other than I've known you for a short period of time as well, and you've always struck me as somebody that is a go-getter, thinks outside the box, so I think you'll do fine.
I want to thank you for stepping up and wanting to help the city and the EDC. So, just thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Likewise, thank you, Melissa. I really have appreciated our candid conversations as well. We actually had a really good one the other day. So thank you for that. Thank you for stepping into what you are about to do.
Well, a little bit, yes, thank you.
Well, I'm not worried. You have my full support.
Thank you.
And clearly I nominated you, so I think you're all right. But I would like to say thank you to everybody that did apply. We're happy to have received significant interest, people stepping up to get involved, and look forward for people being involved in many different aspects. But for tonight, for the appointment of Melissa Benavides to City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors, place number 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Welcome.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And with that, having any other conversation or discussions, we will adjourn tonight's meeting. The time is 8:43 p.m.